Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Harness AI in 3 Steps, Communicate Efficiently, Empathetically, and Intelligently. We're excited you could join us. My name is Pamela Deloach, and I'll be moderating today's event. Today, we are going to look at how you can best harness AI in a way that serves students. AI is getting into the conversation as the most effective and efficient way to give students the personalized communication experience they've come to expect. However, many institutions struggle with inefficient and impersonal customer relationship management systems, or CRMs, for texting and engagement. Applied with intention, AI allows universities to streamline communication processes, provide personalized experiences at scale, and gain data-driven insights that improve both enrollment and retention. We hope you'll walk away from this webinar with a more practical understanding of exactly how that's done, how it will save you time, give you more information, and of course, most importantly, improve the experience students have with your institution. Before we get started, let's go through some quick tips to make sure your webinar experience is the best it can be. At the bottom of your screen are resizable and movable application widgets. Feel free to move them around to make the most of your desktop space. The slides will automatically advance during the presentation. If you need to enlarge them, simply click the Enlarge Slides button in the top right corner of the presentation window. If you need technical assistance, click the Help widget in the bottom left corner at any time. As the presentation gets underway, you may submit questions using the Q&A widget. We will answer as many questions as we can at the end of the presentation. If a more informative answer is needed, or if we run out of time before we answer your question, we will follow up via email. After today's presentation, you will receive a link with on-demand access to the webinar so you can watch it again at any time, as well as share the content with colleagues. Now I'd like to welcome our expert speakers. Matt Baker, Associate Vice President, Product at Mongoose, Josie Sutcliffe, Vice President, Marketing at Mongoose, and Susie Carr, Assistant Vice President, Enrollment Strategy at Huntington University. And to kick off, I'd like to ask each of our speakers to provide a quick introduction of themselves and their work. Josie, would you like to kick us off?
Absolutely. Hi, Pamela.
Hi
So as you
there.
mentioned, I lead marketing at Mongoose. I've been in the technology marketing space for my entire career, which is over 25 years at this point, focusing on areas like HR technology, learning and training technology, and edutech. I also spent a number of years at a people analytics company. So this sort of analytics AI topic is very much near and dear to my heart. I find generative AI incredibly inspiring, and I'm very much looking forward to the discussion today.
And hello, everyone. My name is Matt Baker. I'm the AVP of Product here at Mongoose as well. And I've really been in higher ed here for about 9-10 years. And I, as well, am very, very passionate about AI. And a lot of it comes from, especially on the conversational side, is my wife is a speech therapist. And so seeing how she engages with individuals and helping them just understand communication and language has always been fascinating to me. And so seeing the power of AI today in that industry, but also within higher ed and in the conversational space has been really exciting for me, and is really the reason I'm here at Mongoose today and excited about this conversation.
And I am Susie Carr. I currently strategy and undergrad admissions at Huntington University. And for me, I have been with communication channels through different platforms for last 9 or 10 years. And I would say Huntington implementing the AI chat has really made a difference. So today it's interesting, and I'm excited to just hear what we talk about and how we can help you kind of see how productive and inviting the AI platform is.
Great. Thank you for those introductions. Let's dig in. So first, why? Why are so many institutions looking at technology like AI to help them engage students and make sure the right students are applying and progressing through the application process within an institution? Among our speakers, we have a lot of valuable insights to share on what institutions are doing today. And let's get started. My first question is, why exactly are institutions using AI to help build meaningful relationships? What's not working with the old way of doing things?
It's a great question and a series of questions. And I think there's a lot of folks here today that are asking the exact same thing. And I think they've experienced a variety of these things. And I've worked with lots of institutions, over my time, and the challenges that they've faced have kind of only grown, right? And so the number of messages that they handle, right? And there's billions and billions of emails and messages, right, going back and forth. It's easy to lose track and kind of lose the sense of, hey, what's actually going on and where does everybody stand? And just trying to keep up, right? And make sure you're sending enough messages and answering the questions that may be coming in and hoping to keep your head above water with the number of staff that you may have. And sometimes there's an over-reliance on CRMs, right? And the CRMs themselves are really great tools, really great from a database management standpoint and reporting and things like that. But from a responsiveness standpoint, a personalization standpoint, I've had a lot of people kind of bemoan the lack of notifications of, especially when it comes to personal chat or text, being able to have that really rapid response and know that, hey, a conversation's been started by somebody. How do I make sure I have that really personal, quick turnaround and be able to speak with them quickly? Because just knowing how many 160 character, text messages I sent, that doesn't really help me understand how I'm connecting with students and know that I'm building those relationships in the face of all of the evolving privacy and security and compliance concerns, not just around email, which has made that channel itself incredibly challenging, but just around text. And so how can AI as a channel be able to kind of elevate that entire space and provide some efficiency gains, as well as some really kind of insightful elements around the just the mass of information, right? And text communications and kind of conversational content. How do you help schools really understand the breadth of what's going on, but especially the depth of what those conversations are handling? And that's why, platforms like Mongoose really focus on that conversational engagement to blend that with that automation with a human touch. So they can streamline the communications, but using AI to help understand the student communications. And we analyze millions of messages, right, to identify some of those trends and utilize AI, which really understands language phenomenally well, to really help consolidate and help staff members understand really the trends and the sentiments and topics that are going on, to know where to intervene or where to maybe train some folks and how to gain some efficiencies, as well as know where to respond personally with the right message at the right time for students and really help them along their journey.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I mean, one of the biggest obstacles we see with the customers and institutions we work with is the limited time that their teams have. They just don't have enough resources to answer every question, and the staff that they have may or may not always know the correct answer or have it at their fingertips. So that slows them down further. So, AI, when used effectively, can really help to automate those responses. It can triage student needs. It can identify the students that need a personalized one-to-one follow-up. And it can also, provide the information they need on demand in real time, even during off hours when, your team may not be working, but the students are up looking at their options for enrollment or whatever it might be. AI can still be on at that point. And obviously the workload issue is even more difficult during peak enrollment times. And so being able to automate responses can really help keep students on track with submitting their applications on time and so on. I was talking to one of our customers recently who's using our AI chatbot, and they said they were able to automate about 80% of the tasks that their team had been doing manually, which is really significant. And this is basically freeing up their team's time to focus on those kind of higher value tasks and providing advice and support and engaging with students in different ways, essentially focusing on the high impact activities and letting the AI chatbot take care of the rest.
And I guess I've seen that firsthand here. Since we've implemented the AI chatbot, we have really been able to free up our staff, because, before it was so time consuming to respond to live chats. And since taking and moving in the AI channel, they no longer need to answer, every single question about applications, financial aid. We have actually even found, since we started utilizing the AI chat, is it's okay that the AI chatbot answers. They are satisfied with the answers the AI chat's giving. So for us, it has just been a great relief for our staff. Our students are still getting serviced and getting answers to their immediate questions. And we're also able to still do our jobs on a daily basis. And we provide it 24/7. That's available to students, and we prioritize the high value of leads. And then we also analyze the student interactive data just to help us know, are the students being satisfied? And they are. So for me, it was great to know that AI is able to answer the questions to our students or anyone who really visits our website pages, and they're satisfied what the answer the AI is providing them. So for me, it's been a great shift for us, and our staff is really appreciating the more time they have back in their day. And it's helping us focus more on the more impactful activities or on-site visits, and helping us put together a great strategy of how can we continue to utilize this even more with more smart messages, more templates. So for us, it's been awesome.
That's great. Thank you for sharing and helping us set the stage. The why makes sense. Can you let us in now on the what? What does using AI look like for institutions right now?
Yeah, so there's several things, and I think there's really a wide kind of gamut of what you see, institutions and where they stand. And I think what's really interesting is, AI in its one of its biggest powers is how flexible it is, right? And so one of the very first things that AI can do in terms of its understanding of language is really establishing the context and the sentiment around conversation. And so again, I'm really focused on the conversational side, and that's what you do here at Mongoose. Really believe in the power of conversations to really connect with students. And so understanding those at institutions, not just making sure that they're happening, but really then be able to take that step back and utilizing a tool like AI to kind of consolidate and look at all of those conversations happening across all of the various staff members and offices, at once, to aggregate that together, to start providing some trends, helps set up institutions start making data-driven decisions with data they never had before. So this isn't just, hey, how many people showed up at an open house, or how many people applied, or how many people maybe fit into a certain category, but truly, what are they interested in? What are the topics that they're talking about? How are they feeling about those things at any given point in time? And how may that be changing? And is our staff equipped? As Josie said earlier, do they even know the right responses to these topics? And how can we then respond faster, right, to those to answer those questions by training our staff with the right questions, but also providing them tools, right, like AI chatbots and things to respond quicker with an answer to a question, and it free up those agents even more, right? And so it's this kind of flywheel effect, right, of knowing more, so that you can find out where you actually your team and your staff may know a little bit less, to inform them to be more efficient, and then having a chatbot to handle some of the questions that maybe are a little more run of the mill, to free them up to do some more of the more impactful questions at a personal level and whatnot, across the board. So that's absolutely one of the I'd say most powerful kind of implementations of AI that we've seen in institutions.
And one thing that we talk about at Mongoose is this idea of empathy at scale. So, using AI isn't just about automation, but it's about helping people to add empathy into every interaction they're having, whether it's with students or alumni or other constituents. So, we all know students today really want that personalized human connection. And by using AI, it can actually guide staff to create really personalized, like empathetic responses based on student behavior and preferences. So you're going to hear us through this discussion talk about chat and talk about messaging. Just to be clear, AI can be used to support and guide each. So whether it's a chat bot sitting on your website or it's messages that you're texting or sending through WhatsApp to students, AI can be built in to give you that empathy at scale. And it's something that we found that CRMs really fail to deliver. So a CRM is typically built to address efficiency, manage data, be very transactional, and it doesn't have the intelligence and the concept of nuanced, personalized engagement that can really make an enormous difference when you're reaching out to people. And so that's something that, we really focus on, is using AI, how you can take all of the data from the millions of conversations that are happening and use that to essentially introduce empathy at scale into all of your communications. And this is particularly important when you're helping students navigate things like enrollment and think about the different types of student groups you might have, whether it's first generation students or students returning from summer break. So, efficiency is important, but it's really important that AI also keeps the humanity or the human element in the communication. So, using AI to augment staff by handling those routine inquiries that we talked about earlier, but then also letting AI help aid staff in making all of the communications, whether they're through a chatbot or through messaging, be more empathetic by leveraging the data to help shape the messages that are going out.
And I can add to that, just Huntington having a dedicated text and chat provider, and being able to leverage templates with smart messages and the AI assistant, it's really been a big contributor to our growth. We probably started a couple of years ago, and we have seen growth every year. So for us, it's exciting because even though our enrollment counselors might feel, oh, I feel like I'm not contributing, AI is helping the contributing, as well as the automation smart messages of chat, that we're still able to keep that communication going and still be able to do the other cores of our job. And I feel as though that makes the team even feel more successful. Our enrollment's growing, but they're also able to really focus in on the key interactions with our students. As we know, engagement with our students as we move forward is critical to success for any institution.
So true. So factoring in the information that you just shared, how can an institution gauge where they rate when it comes to AI adoption? What do you consider to be normal and what's advanced today?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And as I said before, there's really a wide range, what you may see today. And I think that's going to continue evolving pretty dynamically. And AI, as a term, right, is pretty loaded, and it's been around a long time. And, today when most folks refer to AI, most of them are thinking of, a GPT type, right? A large language model, type technology. There's lots of other kinds of AI that are out there. And so there's lots of different tools and kind of different areas that it can be implemented, and really, kind of any element on campus can be impacted. We're really focused on the impact on the conversational side, because everyone on campus effectively is having conversations with people, and that consumes a large part of our day. It varies on, individual what your role is, but having conversations, whether it's email or text or chat or whatnot, communicating with people is a large part of a lot of folks, workflows across campus. And so we're really focused on that. AI can kind of go across the board. And so within really that kind of conversational side and kind of those workflows, kind of zeroing in on that, saying what does kind of maturity and adoption of AI in that context look like? Really on the beginner side, and probably a lot of folks here have done this themselves, is, well, how can I use AI to draft some responses, right? So I've got a message, I want to kind of come up with something, but maybe I just have writer's block, or I've just realized, hey, it really helps me kind of get going here, get some inertia, draft me a message, then I can kind of take it, the last mile, and kind of craft it into my voice and kind of say exactly what I might need it to say. And so in Mongoose, we've said, all right, let's make sure we have those tools right at the fingertip. And so whether that's responding to a text message that comes in and say, hey, just draft me a response, or maybe it's a text message in another language, and the AI agent can understand that language, right? Almost any common language on Earth, and draft a response, right, within that native language. And make it pretty easy for really any individual to communicate with really anyone else on the outside. And especially when you're looking at certain channels or modalities that have certain context or certain limits, like for text, for instance, you're not going to want to send somebody a whole paragraph, right? You want to send them something pretty concise and a little more casual in nature, and using something like a GPT to easily come up with a message like that's contextually aware, understands the conversation that's happening with that student and kind of their reality, can make for a lot of efficiencies. And you're not having to copy and paste things into a chat GPT or something over on the side. And so having that kind of embedded in your tools is really kind of that first beginner phase of not just using it for drafting, using AI to draft responses separately, but using tools that have that built in and utilizing that kind of on a recurring basis. The next phase, kind of the intermediate side, is, all right, well, how can you use something like the AI chatbot to handle those inquiries and do the responses kind of on an automated basis, right? So as those questions come in, let's say you get application process updates or FAQs about student services or events on campus or whatnot. Those are those repeated inquiries, that information is available. How can that trained chatbot handle that and free up your staff in time? And enable your maybe website visitors, giving them an easy path to that information rather than having to try to go and find it themselves. Because as we all know, a number of individuals, especially in the generation today, they're looking for information really quickly. And so if it's at all involved or take them time to go and find, they may just give up and not really go and find it. And so making sure that you have that there 24/7 answering inquiries and questions for you is really the intermediate side. And then on the advanced side, on the conversational end, is, as we spoke about earlier, is how do we take the AI and collect all those conversations that are happening and gain some insights around them. So take all that, we call it unstructured data. So it's really just a string of words and messages back and forth. And how do we wrap those together and say, well, what's a conversation? What is that conversation about? And what's the emotion and the sentiment of the people, and especially the student involved, in this conversation? How are they feeling about it? And then on aggregate, across all of these conversations that are happening, what are we seeing? What are the trends? What are the lessons to be learned? What can we do about that? And help schools proactively respond to student needs. And then even be able to take that data, and we'll talk about this in a little bit more in the future, take some of that data and utilize it on the more the predictive and a prescriptive side to say, hey, how can we learn from what's happening and what has happened to start doing more of what's working and intervene early and make a difference?
Yeah, I mean, when I think about data, it really is so critical to decision making in higher education today. But that said, AI isn't actually about the data. It's about the actionable insights you get from it that you can actually work with to make a difference in whatever it is you're working to achieve. And I think the common theme we hear across all of our customers is around student engagement and students' outcomes and student success. And so, using AI, which has access to all of the data, such as your text messages and so on, can really help you to identify patterns in the student engagement that can lead to better retention, for example, or better retention strategies, or identify opportunities for intervention. And when you think about AI at the advanced stage, as Matt was just discussing, it's about taking this very unstructured data, like all of the many, many messages and conversations that you're having with students, and putting it into these structured insights, and letting you use those insights to understand what topics students care about the most, how they're feeling, what's the sentiment of the interactions that you're having with them, what are the topics that are of most value or importance or concern to them. One example, for example, is financial aid. So, we have customers that are using Mongoose to look at patterns in student inquiries about financial aid to identify what the students' most common concerns are, so they can then develop solutions to address those proactively.
And we have already seen an uptick, in our AI chatbot. And at first we were very hesitant, thinking, okay, is this really going to work? But students are relying on complex questions to be answered, and the AI chatbot has been able to do that for us. Plus, they answer very quickly, where, when you are lower on staff, you've not had that opportunity to get back to them. So the satisfaction of students or people coming to our site and getting responses have made a difference. And at first we were hesitant, but we have not so far have seen any type of roadblock. It's proved to be successful, as even our volume of visits have increased just with initial questions. And a lot of times it might be that same student coming back who's getting on the system late at night, but they know they're going to get an answer. So for us, this has been proved to be a great solution as we push forward.
Very great. Thank you all for that explanation. So with that model of AI adoption maturity in mind, let's talk about how attendees can move forward with these concepts. Now, I know this is a complicated and long-term process, but if we were to break it out into, say, 3 clear steps, what would they be? And how do you approach working with institutions to get AI put into place?
It's a really good question, and thankfully, it's really not that hard to get started with any of this. And in some cases, just the amount of conversation in this space, right, is what seems to be sometimes the most overwhelming, right? Everywhere you turn, there's AI something, right? And so, yeah, that very first step of simple automation and personalization, especially if you're an organization and you have some sort of a system today that does communications, and the most common one would be a CRM, is really taking a look at that and saying, does it really provide me the capabilities of having the right and most engaging kinds of conversations that I know other institutions are having with a specialized tool like a AI-powered two-way bidirectional conversation platform like Mongoose. And we complement, right? We sit on top of and sit alongside of really any information system, SIS or CRM on campus for any department, right? Not just admissions, but really any office, because they all need to communicate. They need to have conversations with their constituents, right? In an effective and engaging way. But they need to do that efficiently. And so within those platforms, do they have not just a way to have some automation set up, but from the AI side, have automated responses that can answer questions, but then be dynamic, right? And actually kind of continue, like the chatbot, continue on and answer some of the kind of most common questions that you may have, and have personalized messaging, right? So whatever the student's situation may be, is that information readily available? And do the individuals you have that are tasked with having the conversation with someone, ultimately, right? You can have an AI having a conversation, but ultimately they're going to want to have it at some point with a person. Does that person have all the information they need to have the most relevant conversation with that individual? And on Mongoose, we've seen institutions, kind of the outcomes that they've seen is about 3 times when they've had conversations, 3 times the outcomes that they would see with individuals that they just messaged, like you would typically see out of a CRM, where they may just say, hey, I want to remind with transactional text notifications or whatnot that hey, application is coming up or whatnot, when they can utilize personalized messaging that's more relevant and is looking for a conversation and is inviting a two-way exchange. Those outcomes go through the roof. But then that next step is the real-time AI insights and intelligent chatbots. And so that's saying, hey, we need a system that we can have really effective conversations on. That's level 1. And then level 2 is, okay, well, how can we really unlock the efficiencies within a system like that to handle, especially on the chatbot side, as many of the inquiries that are, in a sense, kind of time-consuming for a human to take, that an individual and a person, visiting your website would be completely happy hearing from an AI assistant on, right? And saying, hey, here's a question. Can you just give me the answer? I'm not looking for personal guidance on a personal issue here. I'm looking more for some information. and some next steps of what I can do, or some clarity. And it's high value, fairly straightforward to implement. There's a lot of them out there. And so one thing that's been really important for us is making sure that we can guide institutions in the implementation of that. It's a partnership. It's not just a one-time thing. And that bot is dynamically trained, right? It can be automatically updated based on the content of your website as it changes. And that's not a huge lift or burden on your team. It's expecting to save time. And so what you wouldn't want is to have to invest in a solution that's actually just taking as much time for you to keep that bot trained and up to date than actually answering the questions that it's answering, right? You want to have a much higher return. And so what our main focus is making sure that those chatbots are dynamically trained and effective. And we have a number of customers. One in particular, like ECU, Eastern Carolina University, was able to understand their student conversations in real time and address specific concerns like financial aid issues, which I'm sure a lot of folks here in this past year in particular saw a lot of topics there coming through about financial aid, and saying, hey, well, what does that look like? Can we understand what the real theme there is, and how we might be able to respond to that well? And just a little shout out here to Susie and her team and their conversations, that were financial related. There's 100% positive and neutral or neutral emotions, so no negative emotions related to the financial conversations they had. And 44% of them had an emotion of joy, which is fantastic, right? Not necessarily, especially in this past year, right? The emotion you may assume is going to have a large appearance, but they definitely were able to be able to get there with a lot of their student conversations pretty frequently.
Just to add in real quick is, as you're talking about that, the data is interesting, even as well as you talked about the financial aid, but also, it really lets you know, what are the students asking? Where are they coming? And, what are they needing answers for? So for me, it was great just to see that for us, our largest volume is coming in through the application process. Students are having several questions. So for us, it was a kind of a good thing that we're answering questions. The AI is providing what it needs to provide and giving back the content that they're needing. So for us, the analytics is going to be a great piece as we move forward. And how can we continue to tweak some of those other templates that we use even through our texting that coincide with what's being responded to the student on the AI chatbot side. So for us, this is a great avenue as we plan our strategy moving forward as well.
Yeah, that's so exciting to hear. And I think always fascinates me, sentiment analysis in particular. I mean, how powerful to know the sentiment of the people that you're interacting with or that your chatbot is interacting with wherever they are at whatever time it is. I thought maybe I could add a little bit more information when you think about some of the terminology that's used in analytics. Because it can help you think about how you might be able to apply it at your own institution. So descriptive analytics are really the most basic form of analytics, and that's about answering kind of the question, what happened? So looking at historical data to give you a sense of past performance and trends. Then you move into diagnostic analytics, which is answering questions like, well, why did it happen? By looking at patterns or correlations in the data to understand the root causes of past outcomes. Then you get into predictive analytics, which Matt was talking about a bit, which is answering the question, what could happen, using statistical models. So can we predict future outcomes based on these past data patterns? And then prescriptive analytics, answering the question, what should we do? By recommending actions, or in some cases, automating those actions, like we're doing with our AI chatbot, for example, or some of our other messaging capabilities, which is using algorithms to suggest and in some cases take the best course of action based on the data and the analysis. And then finally, you get into cognitive or AI-driven analytics, where it's about continuously adapting. And using natural language processing and deep learning to really simulate human thought processes and improve insights autonomously. There's so much exciting stuff going on. And, we're so proud to work with customers like Susie and see them in real time using advanced analytics to drive better student outcomes.
That's great. Well, we are nearing the end of our presentation today. And so first I want to thank you all for joining us, and a big thanks to Josie, Matt, and Susie as well. We do have a few minutes left to address some of the questions that came in. And remember, if we don't get to your question today, we will follow up with you via email to get you the information you need. First question, what should institutions keep in mind regarding student privacy, compliance, and ethics? And Susie, would you take that one?
Sure. One, minimize your data that you're collecting. Always communicate clearly, just on the lines of what's happening, who you're talking to, and secure the data with encryption. It was a very easy process working with Mongoose with that. One, always do audit checks. Always go and look, see how is it performing, how, are the questions being answered, and all those type of things. But in short, institutions need to really be transparent that the using of the AI, because to me, it just is fair, it respects and the student's autonomy, but also allow the opt out. They don't want to talk to an AI. We have that option, and many times they don't opt out. They do want to stay with AI, but we do that just to ensure their rights. They don't want to be talking to that, but we also add it in for us if they want to opt out of that AI communication and come in and talk to admissions counselor. We do have that option for a while, and it's just how AI's role is, it's used at the institution has just been wonderful for us, just in those pieces. So I would just say, really just be transparent. It's evident that using AI, it's answering those questions, but also just respect the student or whoever they're talking to. It might be a parent or anyone who else comes into the platform, just to let them know what you're using and how we're responding to their questions.
Great. Okay, next question. What are the long-term benefits of using AI for enrollment and retention beyond just improving response times and engagement rates?
One, I think most help and probably strengths in just the student experience in getting responses. Yeah, it might, they're getting it fast, but not only from students, but for alumni. It creates that engagement. They're getting responses, but they're also being able to channel through maybe the enrollment funnel, or maybe they're having questions in regards to an upcoming event for alumni. It's really about that engagement and always being available. But also, for us, it has really assisted, like I said earlier, freeing up our staff. So then, having more time to really go back and connect with students, and even maybe sometimes follow up with some of those students, makes them feel as though they're still being getting their answers, but they're still knowing that we are seeing that communication and we are helping them move through the funnel. So really, it's that student center institutional culture of who we are at Huntington University and how we really want to make a change for them.
Right.
Yeah, and I think to kind of double off of that as well is I think one of the interesting things with the AI chatbot in particular, right, is it does self-identify. And, I know, Susie, there's always, when institution rolls it out, there's always a little bit of a question of, well, how are people going to respond to this, right? Like, are they really going to want to engage with the AI or not, right? Like, what's that perception going to look like? I think you've seen some really good engagement, some maybe even more than you would have expected, right? Or maybe some people would have expected, right, on campus. Kind of runs a gamut. And what I've really seen is, especially on students that are coming to the website, is when they see schools that are utilizing AI in a clear and effective way, it's a really positive brand statement, right? So as the institution, from a long-term benefit, is you're demonstrating to your population, right, your constituencies, from your prospective students all the way to your alumni, right, that you are an institution that is focused on the future, and you understand how to engage with what is a tremendously rapidly evolving technology, right? And you can use it well, and that you can respond to it, right? And if that changes, that you can change with it. And we really are so thankful to be able to be a partner with so many institutions in that journey with them. It's a hard journey just to try to do that all alone, and we really appreciate being able to do that for them and be able to help them to collect some of that data, right? That AI brings along the way. So it's not just that brand, but also all the data we were talking about earlier from the analytics perspective. As they gather that over time, and even using AI to then gather data on historic data that they've had just kind of sitting around, gathering dust, not really helping them. It really can help transform some of what they do in the future, because they kind of unlock some analytics around, especially enrollment and student success predictions that they never would have had a chance to use on data they never would have had access to before without AI. And that absolutely can help their outcomes in the long term.
Great, great. Okay, next question. How quickly can institutions typically implement an AI-driven communication system like Mongoose?
Oh, I think that the answer to that one's always, it depends, right? It's what everyone always loves to hear. I mean, what I really like to say is, and we really pride ourselves here at Mongoose, is again, being that partner. So we're not just for instance, a software to say, hey, here you go, here's the code, go do it yourselves. We really augment, right? We have a whole team of people, many that are former higher ed staff themselves, that really understand the industry and understand the fact that implementing a system like this is not anyone's primary job on campus, right? You all have a full-time job that you're trying to manage at the same time that you're trying to roll out something like this to help your job get better, right? So how can you find the time to save yourself the future time, right? And so our teams absolutely help with that. And it can run anywhere from, a couple of months to a few weeks, right? It really depends on, your institution, what you're trying to accomplish, how many different teams and departments that are involved, and, how quickly you can pull things together. From our end, in terms of standing up, let's take a chatbot, for instance, training it on your website and getting it stood up, that can be done in a sense days on our part. But then there's all the steps of making sure it can get installed and inspected by, your teams and your marketing, your IT teams and whatnot, right? There's obviously a number of steps that are involved for prudence and best practices, right? As Susie had mentioned, you need to do the auditing and making sure that, your privacy policies and things like that are absolutely covering all the various technology that you're looking to implement. And so it's a process that can be done pretty quickly, and we can help it roll out as quickly as possible. But absolutely something that needs to be done thoughtfully and with a good perspective in terms of compliance and privacy.
And I can just add to that, if you don't mind, real quick. We were surprised how quickly it could be done, but I really appreciated how they set it up, but then we did it ahead of time for testing. And I think when you have that time of testing and it was doing its job and doing some of that, if you have staff, they're like, okay, is it really going to do something? Is it really going to answer the kind of questions that we get? And I have to say, I think that was a great component for our staff to see that, oh, wow, it can really answer, some of these questions. So, and along with, I have to, give kudos. It was really a great implementation for us, and just having, always available, answered the questions, gathered everybody together. And I would just say the testing component, when you're unsure, okay, is this really going to work? That really kind of helped seal the deal. Let's, this is going to really work. But then also getting the confirmation when it was live that really was working. So just from that standpoint, it doesn't take long. I think the hardest part sometimes is getting the buy-in from others. And I would just say, kind of trust it, because the AI is very powerful and it really can answer some of those questions you don't think it could answer. So that's just a couple thoughts there.
Okay, no, great. Well, kind of following up to that, maybe for Josie, how can smaller institutions with limited budgets start leveraging AI without overwhelming their staff and resources?
Yeah, I mean, I think one key to that is to really think about the type of partner you're going to work with, the type of technology provider you're going to work with. And this is a case where working with a best of breed solution provider can be hugely advantageous. Just speaking about Mongoose, we send more messages for more institutions than anybody else. And so we've really focused on making the solutions that we offer as easy to understand, as easy to roll out as possible. And, something that I hear often from our customers is that their team members can learn Mongoose in day one. So when they have a new enrollment counselor, they get in there like, okay, now I know how to use it within the first few hours, which is so critical. So I think if you're looking at these type of solutions, take the time to look at the best in-class players, and consider the depth of their experience, and then look at how intuitive the solution is that your team members are going to be in, on a daily basis.
Great. We got time for one last question. What are the next advancements in AI for higher education beyond conversational engagement? And how do you see AI evolving in the student life cycle?
Well, I'm not exactly Nostradamus, so I'm not sure I can entirely predict the future, though I wish I could. I mean, one of the things, and you're already seeing it today, is just the evolution of the concept of AI agents, right? And that is this idea of a personal AI assistant, right? Which we have again, I think at the team level, is what we've kind of rolled out. But getting that even to the personal level and within the educational space from a student success perspective, there's this thing called Bloom's 2 Sigma problem, I think is the terminology. And it was really focused on what's effective education look like. And there's actually a presentation at NACAC recently that covered this as well, for those who may have attended that. And it really focused on, well, hey, education in the classroom is somewhat effective, but the most effective, way to learn is one-to-one, right? And I think we would all agree to that, right? Of, hey, having somebody, master apprentice type, hey, here's how you do this, and here's your mistakes, here's how you can correct that, is the most quote unquote effective way, right? When it comes to time to learn and master a certain skill or a certain element of knowledge. And I think that's really where, as education is looking at how to utilize AI to transform the effectiveness. And higher education is about education, right? It's about making students that come in not knowing a whole field of knowledge, be able to leave on the other end with a degree and confidence, knowing that they have a whole new set of knowledge to be able to go out and transform the world, the society that they live in. And they only have so many staff members, right? They only have so many classrooms, they only have so many labs, they only have so many of all of those resources. And what AI really, I think, will allow a lot of institutions to do is to help train their students on utilizing this, essentially an AI tutor right alongside them to access all of that institutional knowledge at that college or university, as well as broadly, right? To really dive into that individual student's learning journey and help them through whatever their challenges or passions are, right? And really pursue learning, right? For learning's sake, and be successful there. So I think if there's one specific thing that I think higher ed is going to find a way to leverage AI to be just that much more successful, it's really in that trying to solve that 2 Sigma problem of how do we solve one-to-one education without actually having a professor for every individual student, and using AI to really expand upon the resources of their professors and help their students learn in between the classes much more effectively.
Well, that will certainly be fascinating. That brings us to the close of today's webinar. I'd like to thank our speakers for a great discussion, and we appreciate everyone who tuned in. Today's webinar will be available on demand, and you will soon receive an email with a link so you can rewatch or share with your colleagues. Have a great day, everyone.